Yeah, so a few videos ago, I did a review of this Notes Jazz by Fragrance World, and said it's a nice one for the fall and winter. Well, in the meantime, I've gotten this. Stick around, we'll do a comparison. I'll let you know how these two match up against each other. All right, so what's good, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Kevin, and you are watching Smell Goods. I appreciate you coming through. Appreciate you hanging out with me for a little bit as we talk through more of the fragrances that, yes, I have in my collection, but hopefully are helping you, just as I'm on my fragrance journey, helping you navigate your fragrance journey as well. If this is your first time, good to see you. Thanks for stopping through. If you've been here before, what's up, Smell Good Squad? Good to see y'all again. Either way, if you have not already, make sure you hit that like, hit that subscribe, request notifications, and then meet me in the comments. You want to hit that bell for notifications, just because every time I go live, every time I post a new video, you probably want to be here watching what I'm talking about. All right. As I mentioned, I did get a few weeks ago as part of a previous fragrance haul. This was one, can't remember, I was on a trip, I think, somewhere, and I got this. But this was Notes Jazz from Fragrance World. Actually, I think I got this from Fragrance Buy before they kicked this all out of their shipping system and kicked this over to Frag Flags, which is a whole other conversation. But this doing its take on, and yes, I can say confidently, this is doing its take, doing a spin, if you will, on Silky Woods by Goldfield and Banks. Well, in the meantime, I have gotten Silky Woods from Goldfield and Banks. Definitely enjoying this, but of course, one of the things when we're talking about clones, cover remixes, inspired takes, what have you, is how does it compare or match up to the original? And in this case, I think I did a video not too long ago, even of fragrances that I have that are clones that have inspired me to actually go and get the OG, just because the OG is just something to not be missed. And so you see that I have it. You can kind of draw the conclusion from that. Now, as far as the two fragrances, are there differences? Yes, there are some differences. I'll kind of walk you through them, what they are. As far as the notes are essentially the same, with the exception of in the Silky Woods, there is an oud note that's in there in the middle note. And I can tell you that when you are comparing them side by side, especially on that first initial spray, the first initial spray for me on the Silky Woods was a little more woody. So there was a little more subdued of that sweetness. Notes Jazz, just so we know which one we're talking about, Notes Jazz, I got a lot of sweetness up front, up top. That cinnamon, that saffron, of course, was there. The floral notes were coming through as well, but that vanilla kind of didn't have a barrier to rise. It really just kind of, for me, rose up to the top earlier. And so therefore the sweetness of this is evidenced early. Now, that's not to say you still get the vanilla in the Silky Woods, but there's the woodiness of the oud that's there that kind of helps to bring it down a little, and really just kind of balances it out, right? In fact, I'll say this: when I first got this, I let my wife smell them side by side. She, of course, went for this just because it was a little sweeter up front. But this, especially when we get to the dry down, which we'll talk about the dry down, I think she enjoys this as well, just as much as the other one, because in the dry down, they're fairly close. There's still some differences. There's still a little more woodiness in the Goldfield and Banks versus the Notes Jazz. There's still a little difference as far as that woodiness, but not a major difference. I mean, we're talking about to most people, as far as an untrained nose, you're not going to really pick up too many of the differences between the two. You might notice just a slight difference, but it's not going to be a glaring difference. I would put Notes Jazz probably in that 85 to 90% range, just because it does do that very well. But notice again that the sweetness is a little more evident in the Notes Jazz than it is in the Silky Woods. But the Silky Woods, when it dries down, gets to this nice vanilla, tobacco, musky wood type of thing that just works really well. The other thing that I've noticed as far as performance, and I'm going to attribute part of this to maceration. Reason I say that is because on the Notes Jazz, if you remember in the first video that I did, I was mentioning that it was kind of average. You were getting about 6 hours or so. Now that it has macerated for a little while, I can say that I'm getting a little more getting probably around 7 hours or so as far as its performance. Now compare that to Silky Woods. With Silky Woods, I'm easily getting 8 to 9 hours, sometimes even up to 10 hours of wear out of fragrance out of this, where it's really just doing its thing and popping off nicely. All right. Now, as I mentioned also, or it may have mentioned in the video, I forget it. All of this starts to run together after a while. But for me, Goldfield & Banks is becoming a fragrance house that very well could be one of those easy reach or easy to jump into niche fragrance houses, right? You've heard me talk about Mancera. Mancera is an easy to jump in, very much accessible type of niche house that they've got a lot in there, and there's a lot that is very accessible, a lot that will kind of bring you up a little level as far as niche, not overwhelming you, but still be very nice and easy to jump into, and you can probably find them for pretty good prices. Same thing with Silky Woods, a little more than what you might be able to find for Manceras, but not outrageous. So we're not talking $300 a bottle or anything of that nature. We're talking pretty accessible as far as price, as far as cost, especially if you know where to shop. And if you can't remember, I've got a video that I'll try and remember to post right up there that has some of the places that I used to shop and save money, because discounts are a wonderful, wonderful thing, right? But this is a house that definitely is going to become one of those entry-level niche houses that I'll turn to. There's a couple others that I have. Well, there's one other that I have, but there's a couple others that I do want to put nose on that have been either recommended to me or the notes and things sound interesting. So I'll probably check them out. But again, if you're looking between these two, for me, I'm preferring this just because it does last a little longer, just because I like the balance of the sweetness and the woodiness. If you're wanting something that is extremely mass appeal, that just is pretty much sweet all the way through, with that tobacco all the way through, that tobacco, of course, in the dry down, and just a little less woodiness, then this is going to be the one that you might want to go for. Either way, both of them smell great. Both of them do a great job of doing what you want a fragrance to do, right? But if we're talking between the two, does this sit well in the space of this? I'm going to say, yeah, this sits very well in the space of a Silky Woods kind of fragrance, kind of take. Does a good job, not a one-to-one, as mentioned, but does a pretty good job of getting you in that space, getting you there. So if you're not ready to jump up to Silky Woods and you're just looking for something kind of in that budget clone inspired take range, you're definitely not going to miss. You're definitely not going to be in a bad place or a bad space by getting Notes Jazz. All right. I think that's it to kind of give you between the two fragrances. I wanted to come out because one of you did mention that in the comments, as far as what, now that you saw that I had the Silky Woods, what would that look like? So I wanted to make sure I answered that question because, as always, if I have the OG and the clone or the inspired take, if I have the bottle of it, I'll do a comparison. That way you can kind of see what's going on with it. All right. That's it for this one. Again, as always, stay safe, stay sane, stay smelling good. If you have not already, hit that like, hit that subscribe, request notifications, and then meet me in the comments. Check out the video I've got here, and then we'll see you next time. Have a great one. Be blessed. Peace.